All right, so this video is all about the top 5 reasons that my family and I decided to make the move from the city of Murrieta to the city of Temecula, California. Let's go ahead and get into it. Hey guys, hey again, my name is Justin Short. I am a realtor and team leader with the Short Real Estate team here at Keller Williams in Temecula. And this video is all about the top 5 reasons that my family and I decided to make a move from Murrieta to the city of Temecula. So this is a question that I get a lot from people when I let them know kind of my history about some of the different areas that I've lived here locally. And hopefully it'll be good information, give you good perspective, because something I get asked all the time is, hey, what is the better city to live in? Should I buy a home in Temecula? Should I buy a home in Murrieta? What are the pros and cons of each? So I want to kind of give you my perspective as someone that's lived here for a long time and why we decided to move over and really what the real differences are. But before we get to all the information, if you are liking local real estate videos like this, please do me a favor, please hit like and please hit subscribe to the channel. Obviously it helps me and it helps my channel as I try to continue to grow it. And then we have new videos that we put out each and every week. So if you want to stay on top of more local based, real estate info, we're going to have them come out. They come out every Thursday. And so I think it's a great way to be able to do that. And then if you guys have any questions, you can feel free to reach out. You're going to see my information either at the end of the video or down below. You can feel free, you can call, you can text, you can email me. That is my direct cell phone number. So happy to answer any questions you may have, help point you in the right direction. Or of course, if I can help you out with your real estate search, would love to be able to help you and your family with that. So cool. All right. So again, I'll kind of give you a little bit of background and kind of, and give you the reasons why we decided to make the move to the city of Temecula. So if you're not super familiar, I have lived here in the Temecula Valley for a really long time. So it's about 25 years now. So I went to high school out here. My family lived in Temecula. They bought a house out in the city of Winchester when it was super, super small. One of the first tract homes out there. And from there, I bought a home in Murrieta, so we lived in the city of Murrieta for a while. We sold that, bought a second home in the city of Murrieta. So we lived in Murrieta for about, I guess it was like 12 years altogether that we lived in the city of Murrieta. And then a few years back, my wife and I decided to sell that Murrieta house and buy a home in Temecula. And the reason I thought this would be a helpful video to make is because this is a question that I get a lot from people is, what's the better city to live in? Where should I live? What's the better place for me, and really just where's going to be a better quality of life, right? And there's pros and cons to each, but for us, we did decide to sell our home in Murrieta to make a move to Temecula. And I will tell you, as someone that's lived in both, I've lived in the area for a really long time, I would tell you the quality of life and like the lifestyle and just the overall feel between the two cities is pretty much exactly the same. So I tell people whether you're going to buy a home in Temecula, buy a home in Murrieta, they're both really, really nice cities. They're both super squeaky clean. They both have good school districts. They both are they're really nice areas, and there's really not a bad part of town in either. And if there is, it's very, very, very little parts of town that would be considered not a super great area. But they're super, super great areas. They're both very, very safe. And I really encourage most people to take a look at both because I think they are both great cities. But we did decide to make the move. So and there are some reasons for that. And there's actually something that we've found that I wasn't really expecting. I didn't think it would be that big of a deal, but that we do actually like living in Temecula a little bit more. So the first reason that we decided to make a move is it was just kind of like a personal want for us. But the house that we had previously, kind of pretty small backyard, and we loved the neighborhood, we loved our neighbors, we actually loved our house. It was plenty big enough, like it was totally great. Really nothing that I wasn't really super happy with, except our backyard was pretty small. And for me, I wanted to be able to put a pool in the backyard for our kids. So I wanted to either buy a house with a pool or build a pool, so our kids will be able to enjoy that at the house, be able to go out in the backyard, run around. I guess I had one, growing up, when I was a, middle school and teenager, and I thought I loved it as a kid. So it's something I wanted to be able to give to my kids. And it just, the way the space worked, the lot just wasn't big enough. We could not build one at our previous home. And so we made the decision that we're going to sell that and buy something with the pool. So, we love the area, love the location, we love the neighborhood. We just wanted a little bit more space. And so reason number 2 is, we were also looking for something that was move-in ready. We have, there's 2 decision makers in this, right? So myself and my wife, and when we were talking about making the move, I kind of like the idea of buying something and rehabbing it, kind of fixing it up. It's something I've helped a lot of clients with, something that we've done ourselves personally, from buying homes and fixing them up and selling them and things like that. So I'm super familiar with the process. Helped lots of clients do that over the years. And so I was kind of looking for something we could fix up and kind of make our own. On the other side of that, my wife was not all about that. She was not into construction. She did not want to deal with that. And really kind of her stipulation for moving was it had to be something that was totally move-in ready, that she can just get right into and not have to deal with a 6-month construction project. So I guess she's a better negotiator than me because I lost out on that. So we decided that we're only going to look for something that was move-in ready. And so that really kind of limited our options, right? So because especially at that time, the market was pretty competitive. This is kind of, post-COVID, homes are selling super quickly. They're getting multiple offers. They're selling over asking price. And, and we had a house that we needed to sell in order to buy the next one. And so it was really hard for us to get our offer accepted. We actually wrote an offer on a couple different homes in the city of Murrieta, and we were not selective. We got denied. Our offer was denied. There's 3, 4, 5, 10 other offers, and we just weren't strong enough buyers to be able to get our offer accepted. So because of that, we really started looking at other options and kind of seeing what would be good fits for us, especially being able to get into something that was move-in ready. So, and I guess the third thing that was important to us is we wanted to make sure that we found a home that was on a quiet street. So we previously lived in a home that was on a cul-de-sac, so it was quiet, very little traffic. You either had the neighbors driving by, or you have the Amazon delivery man, the FedEx guy, and that's about it. And so that was really important to us to live on a quiet street as well. So that really kind of just started to limit the options out there. So we wanted something that has a yard big enough to have a pool, something that was remodeled or newer, that's going to be move-in ready, and something that's on a quiet street. So it became pretty difficult to find something that kind of that fit the criteria. We actually looked for probably about 1.5 years, I would say. I tried to present options. Some of them were denied. We wrote a couple offers, didn't end up working out. And so we ended up buying a home in Temecula because it was a new construction home. And it was a lot easier to get an offer accepted. We didn't have to compete against multiple offers. We just had to kind of get the luck of the draw to get signed up in time and be able to have our offer selected. So that was a big plus, right? Because we had to sell the other home, and it made the timing work out a lot easier. Also, when you're buying a new build, it is move-in ready. So you don't have to worry about doing any renovations, at least on the inside, for kitchens and things like that. We ended up having to develop a whole backyard, so that was a whole nother project in its own, but I guess maybe we didn't think about that quite enough. But the idea of getting into a new build, at least got us into something that was totally move-in ready, and we could pick the lot, so we were able to get something that was on a quiet street and kind of get the criteria. So for us, we actually ended up buying a home in the Summers Bend community in Temecula, and we bought it as a new build. And really, although we moved from Murrieta to Temecula, the distance, we probably moved about 2.5 miles down the street. So it was not a big move by any means. It was just kind of down the street, but we did cross over from Murrieta to Temecula. And with the timing of the market and kind of where things were, how competitive things were, how hard it was to find something that's on our list, moving into this new build was a really, really good fit for us, and something we've actually been really, really happy with. We definitely spent a lot more money, developing the backyard and doing all these things to, customize it, make your own. There's a lot of details that people don't point out to you that they're going to cost money, right? When you're looking at homes that are built 20 years ago and they have all these little touches and things, well, people have paid for that over the years, and I guess I've learned that firsthand now. So definitely had some learning lessons there, and some things that we now know that we did not know. And then for us too, this is pretty specific to me and my business. Obviously, I sell real estate for a living, right? So we're driving around to different neighborhoods and different clients, whether it's showings or listing people's homes or whatever it is. But pretty much all my business is here locally. Some maybe up to about an hour or so away, but for the most part, kind of Temecula, Murrieta, Menifee area, more or less pretty local. And so for me, it is a huge plus to be central to both cities, to be pretty close to Temecula, pretty close to Murrieta. So and that's kind of where we're at. When we leave our neighborhood, I can go left to Temecula. I can go right just a couple minutes to Murrieta, and I'm pretty central. We can get to either city, pretty easily. So that is a big plus for me. And just, what I do for a living, if we had to commute down to San Diego, then obviously I want to be a lot closer to the freeway, right? So there's going to be pros and cons there. But for me, our location, it was actually a pretty big plus. So those were really the driving factors of why we moved to Temecula over Murrieta. It's not that we liked Temecula so much more, or that we didn't like Murrieta. Honestly, quality of life has been very, very similar, with the exception of one thing, and this is reason number 5. What we've found and what we've been really happy with is, since we've moved to Temecula, is we actually are a little bit happier with the location and being in Temecula, which means we're a lot closer to all the different amenities that Temecula has to offer. So we're a lot closer to like the wineries. We're a lot closer to the Temecula Mall. We're a lot closer to like the South Temecula area where there's a bunch of restaurants and shopping and stuff like that. We're a lot closer to like our activities, like our kids' activities and sports activities, and a lot of where our friends are, things like that. So I would say, even though both cities are very, very similar, kind of with our lifestyle and where we were already spending time, it actually has been a pretty big boost to being just a few miles down the street, because we are so much closer, and we might save 10 minutes each trip, right? 5 minutes there, 5 minutes back, whatever it is. But just on a daily basis, it has been a pro for us, and it has been it's a bigger advantage than I thought it would be. So for us in our lifestyle and things that we do, it has been nicer to be closer to shopping, restaurants, and activities. But again, I would tell you, both cities that we were super, super happy with. I think both cities are cities that most people should consider. Take a look at both. Temecula definitely is a little bit more on the map, right? It's more well known. People know about the wineries. People know about Old Town Temecula. They might know about the Pechanga Casino. They might know about the mall that is there. And if you do live in Temecula, you are just a little bit closer to that. If you live in Murrieta, you can buy a home for less. You might be an extra 5-10 minutes to some of those amenities. So there's going to be some pros and cons. But for us, it has been a little bit nicer to be in Temecula, and that was our perspective. So anyways, I hope it's good information for you guys. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. You can call, you can text, you can email me, and hopefully talk to you soon. Thanks.